Welcome to Starting a Business Simplified, Navigating the Shift, a podcast for those of you looking to transition from a medical career to starting an online business. I will be sharing how to get started, success stories, and more. If you are looking to make the move from medicine to online, but don't know where to start, this is the podcast for you. I'm Suzy Rains, your host, and I look forward to helping you simplify starting a business. Hi, Becky. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Suzy. So good to see you.
I know it's been forever that we've connected. Well, before we dive into our topic today, I would love if you would just share with the audience who you are and how did you get started in your business?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Becky Clabaugh, and I am a personal development junkie. So I have a Bachelor of Science in Human Services, and I was on the track to be a drug and alcohol addiction counselor. And during that time, I worked for an ophthalmologist. So I was also a surgical tech, and then I sold durable medical equipment. And in that time, I was really great at selling, and I enjoyed that because I love deep relationships with people. But I noticed that there were times I would get pretty triggered by money or making offers to people. And I didn't even know that's what was happening. So forward fast, that's what I do now. I'm a specialist in really helping women in particular, those solo professionals, coaches, consultants, and service providers get grounded in their body and feel regulated and more inspired about making offers to people and creating income with that high vibration in their body. And I learned a lot of really great ninja tricks along the way.
I love that. And I know I have worked with you as a client and we've worked together on things. You've gone through my workbook.
Yep.
And there is so much truth in all of what you just said, that vibration and really tapping into your emotions and your feelings that happen, triggers that happen when you're thinking about money in general. And we all have our own money stories. What I would love to talk about a little bit is what are some of the things that you notice when you work with people around when money triggers come up? So, like things that are like hidden agendas that they don't realize they have, or anything that just sets them off and
Oh,
gets their emotions going.
so many things. So I'm also a first degree black belt. So I use a lot of analogy in my business around, situational awareness. In my personal opinion, is the same thing as business awareness. And being a black belt CEO of your business is really coming to that place of the aspects of money get triggered by emotions and traumas. And the traumas I'm talking about are goal trauma or financial trauma. And so what I have created is that we have these hidden agendas that are downloaded in our nervous system. It's very subconscious from our early paradigm. It could be from your well-meaning parents. It could be from a place where you were formed in your faith. It could be your community, the neighborhood that you live in. There's paradigms in there that we just download in our nervous system, subconscious things as little people. It's from our theta brain as we're still learning things. It's about 7 years old. We're still in that theta process. But inside the money, I've identified 6 bugaboos. Would you like to learn about them?
Yeah. Share those with us.
Okay, sneaky little buggers. And one of them, I know all of them very well. And that's why I'm an ace at it. And I'm confident that everyone's going to be able to probably identify with at least one. So the first bugaboo is overinvesting. And a lot of us get triggered and tripped up with this, especially when we're coming into being a new entrepreneur, because there's so many beautiful, shiny things and experts and influencers out there. Social media is a great place to learn about a lot of things. Overinvesting can happen when you feel like you need to invest in a coach, a program, a workshop, a thing, and you throw money to it like a Hail Mary, and it's going to fix everything. It could be the shiny thing, and it doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to. So then what happens is we have an investment wound. And Suzy, you know about this because you witnessed me getting an investment wound from overinvesting. And it was a very painful process, but I've learned how to really work with that bugaboo. It was something that downloaded in my nervous system as a little kid, probably when I sold Girl Scout cookies. So it's something along the line that there's a story related to that. And then what happens, there's another bugaboo that can be born through that particular experience or even independently, and it's under earning. A lot of us do this is that you're the one that actually taught me this with the workbook and that perspective. And also from Profit First is under earning entrepreneurs in particular pay everybody else or all their expenses or everything else without paying themselves first. So then we have this thing that's downloaded in our nervous system that we're feeling pretty resentful about our business. Wow, maybe I should just throw the towel in. So we go rogue on it. It's at that place of we just notice that there's a story with that too. And under earning, it's kind of sneaky. Tell me what your thoughts and feelings are about that when I say that to you, because I noticed you nodded your head on that one.
Yeah, I identify with that totally because, and I struggle with this too, when we're not bringing in the money and the two go together. We're
Mhm.
investing and under earning. It's like, that's like the common thing. When you're starting a bit, everybody says this, you have to spend money to make money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yes, you do, but you have to do it responsibly. You have to think through what kind of an investment is going to give me a return.
Mhm.
Return on investment, basic business 101. But at the same time, if you're not bringing in, you're not getting the money that's coming in, then it's triggering. And for me, it's very triggering to not have money coming in. And I love that you said you just want to throw in the towel because I tell my
Yeah.
husband that all the time. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, it doesn't matter. I could just hang it all up tomorrow and be done with it. And guess what, listeners? You're all going to say that at some point. I guarantee
Yeah.
it. Every new business owner feels that way. If you talk to the founder and CEO of Walmart, he will tell you that he went through that as a new business owner because nobody is excluded from it. It's understanding it, knowing it's happening, and then talking to someone like Becky to figure out what to do with it.
So, yeah, entrepreneurs with the under earning bugaboo tend to avoid sales conversation and making offers or even increasing their prices on a regular basis. A lot of times they'll undercut. Oh, I'll give you a discount. I'll trade. I'll do it for you for whatever. They have no idea how to promote themselves in a way that feels aligned and builds a genuine relationship with others. That's my secret sauce. And I'm going to ace at that. When it comes to the place of that self promotion strategy, like what you're doing, speaking, podcasting, lights you up. The same thing, online or in person, or writing, or the web. But the main thing in there is building those genuine relationships. And when you're at that point and you're feeling skeptical whether it's possible to change your income and your status, your overall picture, that's the vibe that you're offering. Because really, it's that feeling, that emotion I'm imagining that's coming up is worry, doubt, fear, discouragement, insecurity, and that relates to resistance. It's a harsh inner critic.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next one, there's a bugaboo of setting goals. A lot of people have a lot of drama around this, and you are an expert at that because setting goals is really how you get to the next level. But when there's fear of failure around money because there's been something that just went wrong in the past, setting a goal just feels like a really heavy burden and a mythical pipe dream. Resisting that realistic and attainable, it's like, I'm in $120,000 in revenue. But what you've also taught me was that, yeah, but your take home is probably going to be less than 60K. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. And the other thing about setting goals too, and I had a conversation with another business owner about this. She didn't leave her job until she actually wrote down what her goal was because until
Mhm.
she put it on paper and made a plan, it was a pie in the sky. It was like, oh yeah, eventually I'll leave my corporate career and make this amount of money. And
Yeah.
what she shared with me was until I wrote that number down and then
Mm.
figured out the how I was going to get there, what it entailed to get there, she would never reach it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, you want to say, "Hey, I want to make six figures this year." At the
Mhm.
same time, you also need to be realistic
For
in how
sure.
you're going to do that.
Yes, that giant storm cloud that you can't seem to get out from under. You feel you have to work to prove that you're deserving and of a steady and abundant income, especially when you come from a medical paradigm from that perspective, because you're making pretty good money. I mean, worked for a surgeon. I also worked in a clinic when I was doing more of a counseling paradigm of what I was doing as a provider. And then sales, medical sales, we had a lot of money. And then coming to that place where I was like, well, dang, I felt kind of entitled. Then I wasn't really prepared to deal with unexpected things. And so that was like, whoa, that big dark cloud. And I just wouldn't even set a goal.
Yeah, yeah, then that happens a lot, that people are afraid of numbers or they don't wanna look at them. Part of that and that's that fear coming up of in doubt. If someone else is not paying me from a structured environment coming from the medical industry, where's that coming from?
Yeah,
Big question
for
mark.
sure. And it messes with your savings, which is the next bugaboo. It's that saving that money. Saving money is also a form of security. And when you, like you said, there are things that you do need to invest in. I mean, I see that you've got this amazing microphone now, and there you've got, I'm sure you've got lots of tools and things that you need to do invest in order to create a podcast. That those are the things that you need. And a lot of people recognize I have a quiz that you can take, and it really can help you dial in some of these sneaky bugaboos is where you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't realize that I was dealing with a bugaboo about savings. And that place can really trigger an emotion that stems from the thought of letting people down, including yourself. There's something attached to that. And then there's that toxic money. It's just the relationship that's in that money where you're staying in it because somebody owes you, or there's a dependency. And that can be kind of tricky to unpack. But there's a way that you can really come into the financial decisions when you understand, oh, there's something here where I can educate myself in a better way about financial literacy in general. And I don't do that. I refer people for that. But it's really, I'm coming into that emotion of being really clear of where you're settled. And then the last one I created, and it's the sneakiest out of all of them, and it's called a sucker punch. And this is where, the quiz comes to that place where you can really continue to strengthen the work that you've already done. You've laid a really good financial foundation. You've got your buckets all tightened up and tidied and pretty, but then the floor just drops from underneath you. You don't even know. That's why it's called the sucker punch. And to be able to get back on track, you've been priced for profit before, and then something just happens. That's where you can really come to that place where you can push through a resistance because something's happened that you weren't expecting. And that there's baby steps to be able to come to that, where that sucker punch is just creating that evidence from the past into the reality of, oh my God, I'm a loser. What's wrong with me? I should be better than this by now. Because limiting thinking comes in because we're really scared. I have an example of that. There was a woman, she was at about 1 million. And I don't know how many years ago, Suzy, you might know when this happened, when paid ads and Facebook in particular, they tanked, and it really caused a lot of trouble for a lot of people. But something just happened with the ads that didn't work. I don't know anything about that. But anyway, she went from 1 million to 700, and it freaked her out. What I want to offer you is 700 to allow what of us would be like, that's so, gosh. But what happened is that it wasn't enough. It's no different. It's a matter of zeros. She got a sucker punch. And being able to bring in 1,000 to 1 million, there's no difference. It's a different level. It's the same damn double. And it starts right
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah. I love that you said 1,000 to 1 million, it doesn't matter, because that's so true. Every concept and all the things that you're sharing, our emotions don't know the difference.
That's right. That's exactly true. In our brain, we're looking for evidence from the past. And so now I'm actually working with her to go through that's a financial trauma. I mean, that really created a lot of that, like a house of cards, quite frankly, because she didn't have the buckets filled up for 6 to 12 months of expenses, and she had a team. And stuff happens. That's life too. So when you become regulated, I'm confident emotional regulation is the secret to building a successful business that's profitable and sustainable. Because the brass tacks, the things, the house, all of the people, the things to populate into all the boxes and stuff, that's definitely important. But you can definitely get a lot more traction when your emotions are regulated and you're feeling calm and grounded and confident. You got a high vibe in your body, like, ooh, I can't wait to serve these clients. This is so fun.
I love that. And that's something that it pairs so beautifully with the hows, like you said, checking the boxes. And because as you go through each step, and this is what I do when I work with clients, as they go through each worksheet that's in the workbook,
Yep.
you can check in on your emotions at the same time. And I don't do that. Becky does. I do
Yeah.
a little bit of it, but I'm very analytical thinking, and you know that
Yeah.
about me. So I'm like, fill in the blank. And then when stuff comes up, I'm going to send you over here.
And I do the same. I love for my people to go through that. You've got to have that baseline of the workbook, at least, because it is simple. You created it that way for this particular reason. The workbook, I believe, was born out of working with me. And you didn't even know you had any hidden agendas. You were like, "Oh, curious, I would love to know what this is all about." Because there were stories around money, our paradigm from our childhood we've talked about. And it's a safe way to come in and being able to recognize, ooh, as a grown up and the black belt CEO of my business, I can actually do something about this. It's very empowering, and it's very powerful to be able to stop in that as the grown up instead of the bugaboo who's really about the age of 6 or 7 running with really sharp scissors.
Yeah, I love that you use that analogy. And something that the listeners, something to know about me, and you know this, is when I worked with before I came to work with you, I was like, I'm not doing a business ever again.
Absolutely.
Like literally. And that's my story. And that's what I share with people is it took me 6 years to get here. And I worked with you last year And that was huge. That was just like such a breakthrough for me to understand the emotions and the underlying things that were pulling me off track.
Yeah.
But it helped me focus. And one thing I talk about in one of my other episodes is really figuring out what service you want to provide and what you're passionate about. Because, like you said, it raises that vibration. As you know, and you know enough about me, I'm doing things that keep me in that high vibe instead
Yeah.
of things that don't. And emotions, it's huge.
Just a really, that's so profound. I'm going to interrupt you because I'm so rude.
No, go
Don't do
ahead.
that. It makes me excited. I think what you just shared, I'm curious if you believe that this is true also. What you've learned is that you don't want a job.
Yes.
And when we're doing things as the mean taskmaster, we've created a job. And as an entrepreneur, I'm imagining the reason why, and I have over 3,000 hours of coaching experience. I've clocked it. There's been within the short amount of time that the underlying feeling in not people's body when they come to me and as an entrepreneur wanting to up level their relationship with money, they want the freedom.
Yes.
Having a 9 to 5 clock a job, that's really, that there's boundaries in that. And there's great W-2 earners, rock on. I think it's amazing because you can still have these issues as a W-2 earner, stopping your trucks from asking for a raise or asking for the sale. It's the same thing, independent or a W-2. It's the same thing from that place of that inner worthy and deserving set point that we think we get into this job mentality. But the reason why we become entrepreneurs is because we want the freedom.
Yeah. And what people don't realize, I think a lot of people don't realize, and this has happened to me, is you don't have security in a job.
I
They
know
can let
that's
you go and
scary.
they can let, and the beautiful thing about starting your own business, being an entrepreneur, is you do actually have control. You have control over what your income is going to be. And that sounds like a pie in the sky. Like, yeah, whatever, Susie, I'm going to make six figures. I'm going to make $1 million. You can.
Yeah. And when a brain can't go beyond that impossible thought, that's a bugaboo. That's something that's holding people back subconsciously. And with habits, if you're 2 decades or more in your age, you've got habits and they're established and they can keep you in a rut. You don't even know that are there. So when you come into a place where you can really unpack some of those things, and that's what I'd love for you to share with your listeners as a takeaway is just to be able to take an audit your brain, audit your business in that perspective of what is actually happening here. Set your timer for 5 minutes and just download your thoughts that you have about your business. Or you can even start with your P&L. What are your thoughts about that? Because the P&L, very neutral. We all can agree, yep, those are numbers. You have thoughts about them. And then the emotions that are bubbling up about that could either be high vibe or low vibe. And then you get to become a detective. And then you get to decide, are you in action here? Or are you procrastinating and resisting? Because it's possible a bugaboo's on the back end of that because our thoughts always create.
Yes. And that also, I love how you and I were so in sync with this because this is what you are, for those of you listening that want to start a business, you're thinking about what you want to do. Again, what Becky just said, thoughts create actions. So if you're thinking, I would like to start X service business, you're creating something out of nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because I consider my business one of my children. I'm a very proud parent. And Chris and I just celebrated our 24th wedding anniversary this week. And we've got
Yeah.
2 kids. And wow, I will fight for my kids. I'm a mama bear for my business too, from that place, because especially when you're creating it out of pulling it out of your hat, like you're building a business that's a high vibe. And yeah, the thoughts create actions, but honestly, it's the emotions. The emotions they fan the flame. They start that ember. And it can be from a place of destruction or like, whoa, let's light the world on fire because I have so much to offer you from that place of this is my gift. This is my purpose. And that's why I love to offer people, put your blinders on, create what comes from your gut. I have this inner mentor that I have people do. It's a guided meditation that I guide them through. And she leaves a gift. And it's so great because that's our inner knowing. That's your birthright, honestly, especially if you're an entrepreneur. It's a calling, by the way. It's something that, if you have a heartstring that's being pulled to do this, you probably should do it and have some things in place like 6 months of savings, your spending expenses, and those things in case you get a sucker punch because they come.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that because that is perfectly aligned with what, after working with you, what I experienced. You just described what I experienced, which is going from having a job that I created for myself as a business to, and me saying, I don't know, ever want to do a business again. I'm just going to go work for other people. That was my attitude. After working with you and going through the emotions of it, finding what in my gut I want to do and waking up in the morning excited to do what I do, regardless of what is happening in my business, even in the downtimes, like in those downtimes, especially still loving what I do.
Yeah. Yes, I created the money magnet method for that very thing right there is we want to be a magnet. We want to be able to have that high vibration in our essence of how we talk and relate to people. And so the acronym for the magnet is M is your mindset in the moment, being grounded and calm in your body. The O is taking ownership. You got to take ownership and responsibility. If you're playing games where you're blaming everything and everybody, which in my sucker punch, Susie heard me fussing a lot about my decision that I'd made. I tried to push it off, but I had to take ownership for it and I owned it. And it took some time. The
I'm going to
end,
interrupt you for a
yeah,
second. I'm
yeah,
going to share something with you.
cool.
Somebody said to me recently that when you have a situation that happens that you're having those doubts about, or you're like, oh, why did I do that? The mantra that I repeat in my head now is I did it, it's done, and it's perfect.
Yes. And that is actually one thing that I baked in for that acronym right there is the ownership piece is I do a lots of evaluating what worked. It's a scientific method, honestly. And if you're in healthcare, you know what I'm talking about. But what worked, what didn't, and what are you going to do different? And that's where I got off my ass and I just decided, no, this is something that happens. And a coach told me, oh, yeah, it's your rite of passage. And I do not receive that. It's something that happened in my experience as a business owner, and I have complete compassion for it. I totally understand. And there's a way out of it because I was able to come out on the other side with that too, even better than I was before. That's my favorite thing. So the acronym for N and the money is no. No is a complete sentence. I have a LinkedIn post right now and it's going nuts because people are loving it. Comes from that place of boundaries, man. You know, be able to make money. You got to say no to the shiny things. Evaluate, sit on an investment for 12 hours, 24 hours, something like that, making sure that you're calm and you're grounded in your body, which is the next part, which is the E. E is for emotion regulation. Like I had already said earlier, that is the secret sauce to making money is to be emotionally regulated in your body and looking at your KPIs, looking at your data, looking at your metrics. Susie also taught me that too, because I was like, I can see my bank account. I'm cool. I got it all. But then we started to measure and it changed everything. And so I have my clients measure as well. And that's a part of that accountability piece. You can't, the facts are the facts, Jack. That's where you can.
Yeah. For those of you who know nothing about business, that is what solely business works off of is the
Mm,
numbers. And that's
mm,
why when people say they make the comment, it's not personal, it's business. That comment comes straight from we're looking at a spreadsheet of numbers and making decisions. All these tech companies are laying people off right now. If you're listening to
mhm.
this, you know what I'm talking about in this day and time. They are all looking at numbers and they could care less about the people that belong to those numbers. And that's and not to say it in a way, I don't want it to come across as be this cold hearted business person that all you do is look at your numbers, but you can't exclude them. You can't just work off of no looking at numbers and say, well, I'm not going to look at those. I'm just going to go over here and do my business. It has to be a balance and incorporated in everything.
For sure, because the numbers can give you that confidence in yourself to believe that either you're an idiot or you're a master. And being an idiot or having those limiting thoughts about yourself is not going to be real high vibe to be out there and make offers. So coming to that place of having confidence in what the facts are so that you can actually rejig your thinking and turn it around. And that's where the why in the money acronym comes from is saying yes to yourself and saying, yeah, I want to do this because of the word why. Why do you get up every day? Like you just said it earlier. When you wake up, you're excited. Me too. And that's my favorite thing is I love watching people transform their complete that here's the deal. Money is just a big fat giant metaphor, all the things in your life from that perspective of how you do one thing, as you know, is how you do everything. And it's throwing a pebble in the pond that I'm imagining if that there's things about your relationship with your money, there's probably other things that are with that holistic wheel, that whole paradigm of your spirituality, your thoughts, your emotions, your physical body too, because when stress is high, intelligence is low. As you know, it releases a hormone, cortisol. Well, cortisol in very straight up terms, it makes us fat and it makes us stupid because it's trying to well, you're either eating your feelings, drinking your feelings, whatever the things that you're doing, or it's really coming to a place where you're actually building toxicity in your body. And it's really hard to make confident, calm decisions when you have a hormone that's wreaking havoc.
Yeah, and coming up with that, we can have structured balance, but it has to be, like you said, holistically across every part of our life. So when something is out of balance, you don't sleep. We know that. When you feel grounded and you have that emotional regulation going on, you can sleep. You can regulate how much you eat. You can take time off and relax. You lower the stress hormones, the cortisol in your body because you're grounded and everything is in alignment. When one thing is off, and that's something that I love that you shared here, is that money is a driver of all of those things. It can either be people are like, if I had more money, I'd just be wonderful. Life would be blissful and happy and whatever. And they associate money with stress. I don't have money. So now I'm stressed, or I have all these bills to pay. So now I'm stressed, or I don't have enough money coming in for all the things that I promised. And so it's that trigger either to calm and peacefulness or chaos and stress.
Wow. Yeah. And Susie, you're an ace at this too, is because you're the tactical piece. You have the tools. And honestly, I'll just share very transparently when I hired you in the beginning, you shared with me an amazing platform to be able to coach my clients so that I had automations in place and I could keep my brain regulated and everything was all in one place. I struggle with ADHD. I have medical PTSD, and I've been able to have a very successful business in addition to having these diagnoses and some things that happened that were just very traumatic. But Susie showed me how to manage my calendar so that it's really life giving to me, in addition to the tools that are available to us, very affordable to keep your brain managed when you're coaching other people or you're serving other people. Because bugaboos, they're just the subconscious thoughts and behaviors that we create in our mind in order to avoid the feelings. And it could be around money, it could be around KPIs, it could be around whatever it is. But what I want to share is that what Susie offers in her book and all the things here is that the tools that you can put in place. And then when you're regulated, it's so much more fun because I'm able to serve a lot of people because I have my systems and processes in place.
It's that combination of being grounded emotionally and regulated to take action and knowing what actions to take. It's like
Yeah,
it's the whole thing
it's very
altogether.
holistic for sure. Yep. And it has a mind body component. And don't be fooled because even if, your clients really are the people that you're talking to in this podcast come from a medical paradigm. And we know that, Zoom fatigue is a real thing too. I think it's like right up there with smoking in addition to how are we managing our bodies and our brains and our minds from that place of experiencing resistance. Or there can be times if I have to set a timer, stop myself and get up and move.
Yeah, my watch does that. It helps me, gives me that little, and I have a puppy too. You guys know who listen, Sadie. She's my lab puppy. She's my little timer because she gets bored and she'll come over and stick her head on my lap and be like, get up, let's go for a walk. I want to go play. Yeah,
Wow.
it's so important.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is so great. Thank you, Susie. I love this. I think that the tools that you have in place to be able to manage our brain, because it really is like trying to tame a wild stallion.
Yeah. Yeah. And the combination of emotions and actions and what actions to take. Because I think once we get what you helped me with as we close is you helped me with emotional regulation so that I could figure out what I wanted to do. And then when I knew, then it was, okay, now what steps do I take to make this happen? So it's that combination. Until I had my emotions regulated, I was like, forget it. I'm not doing any of it.
That is true. And it was so fun to watch because it literally happened like a flip of a switch. That, neuroscience tells us that only about 15% of our brain is and our subconscious is the other 85% that holds our habits, our beliefs, and our memories. And that's what's really good about the tools that I use. I use a whole process that was actually created by an engineer. So there's a whole system that is put in place very strategically to unpack those hidden agendas so that you can move to the other side to get into inspired action. And then there's backlash tools that I offer too, because man, we've got those subconscious programs running in our brain a million times more powerful with our subconscious than our processing abilities. That's what we have to really be able to rejig very competently every darn day.
Yeah. It reminds me of a computer. And when you have too much stuff loaded on it and everything's running slow, but you can't see what's causing it,
Yeah.
it's it's like, why is my computer so slow? And you have all these things that have been downloaded and downloaded to where until you go and talk to a technician and be like, why is my computer slow? And they're like, oh, you have all this space that you took up with all these things that you're not even using that aren't even helpful, but they're dragging you down and your computer's running really slow. Our brain's the same way.
It really is. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Before we go, could you share with us how to get in touch with you or how people could reach out if they're interested in working with you or just want to know more?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love that. So I have a free event that I offer once a month, and I'd love for you to come. So you can just register right there on my website. It's BeckyClabaugh.com. And my last name is Clabaugh. And it's a mini workshop. I have guests on there that share their rags to riches stories, and they give you one little nugget you can take away. And then we talk about these hidden agendas. And then I take you through an emotional regulation process. And then after that, we do some really high vibe, high touch speed networking. It's really awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I've been there and it's amazing. It's just wonderful to have other people around you that are going through similar situations. I think as
That's
business owners,
absolutely.
yeah, we just feel isolated in the world, especially working from home and coming from an environment where you're with other staff members and you're working with people and you have all that synergy. It's really hard to do things on your own. So I highly recommend visiting Becky's 60-minute
Yeah, it's a
connection.
six-figure focus group now. And the reason why I changed that
Okay.
is I really want people to come in who are ready to have a different relationship with their money. And it doesn't matter. There are people who are scaling to six figures or more. There's people who would love to bring in 500 a month. Like I said, it's a matter of the zeros. It doesn't really have any difference between trying to bring in 1,000 a month or trying to hit 1 million. That we all have these bugaboos. Every single one of us has them. And I personally believe is to step into the room with people who are doing it bigger, better, faster than you. And that's how all ships rise with the tide.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Susie. It's so good to see you. I love you.
Yeah, love you too. And for my listeners out there, as always, keep it simple. Thanks for listening to this episode of Starting a Business Simplified, Navigating the Shift. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for you, so be sure to reach out and let me know what you thought about this episode. If you're not sure how to get started with your business, download a copy of the Starting a Business Simplified guide. Click on the link in the show notes for your copy.